What's up guys, Zero Love here, and I am here to break down the Toroline strings. There are quite a lot, but I have spent a lot of time with most of them and a little bit of time with some of them. So I'll be honest about how well I think I know each string when I am speaking on it. And here's a fun fact you will appreciate at the end of the month. It is October right now, 2024. Toroline discount codes will be going from 20% down to 10%. So if you still want to get 20%, you can use my code ZeroLove to still get 20% before the end of the month. And afterwards it will be 10, which will be true for everybody. So let's get to the part you've been waiting for. You want a string breakdown. You want to know what strings are best and what they offer and why. We're going to do this in order. I'll start with O-Toro, all right, because it's just the first one up here, and I'll work my way down from left to right. And I guess I'll talk about the hybrids briefly. We'll see. It feels weird to talk about the hybrid when it's really just two different strings, but I might say a little something about it. We'll see. But I'm mostly going to focus on the sets, just the single sets of string. But I will try to touch on the hybrids a little bit. I do get asked about them, and I usually, actually always, hybrid strings. So we'll talk about it. And you know what? Let me just say one thing. I think Toroline sometimes gets a negative reputation because it's like an influencer string. That's kind of just a trending word out there to call some of the up-and-coming string companies that. Here's the thing. Anybody that calls a string an influencer brand or something as a way to like invalidate its quality, that really frustrates me, because what about the other side of the spectrum where clearly brands like Babolat or Wilson are paying millions of dollars to make people think that the top players are using their rackets or using their strings? Do you guys not think that the opinion of some of the pro players that are sponsored by brands like Babolat and Wilson and whatnot are representing something specifically because they're getting paid to? I'm not really trying to draw a parallel there between that and the influencer brand stereotype, but it's just weird to me that somebody would attack an influencer brand but also not be critical of tennis celebrity endorsement brands. At the end of the day, you just got to think for yourself. You got to try these strings for yourself or find somebody who you trust the opinion of, and hopefully that can guide you in the right direction. But to discredit Toroline or Restring or something because it's an influencer brand, it's a ridiculous thing to do. And aside all of that, Restring and Toroline by far just make my favorite strings. That's just how it is. And I was hoping for a string like these to exist for quite some time. I was actually really disappointed in the overall polyester market because strings like Hyper G and RPM Blast would just break for me so quickly, and the spin potential that they did offer diminished so early. When Wasabi and Zero first came along, I was actually blown away and so happy, and my enthusiasm from those days continues to now. So it's frustrating for me to see people discredit the brands that I feel have set a new and very high bar for spin potential and durability as an influencer brand. It's like baffling that you can just invalidate a company that's pushing the boundaries in such a meaningful way, in my opinion, as an influencer brand when there's celebrity endorsement brands that are arguably just more dishonest. Like they're literally endorsing a racket that they don't use. So I mean, my whole point is just like, think for yourselves. That's what I did. That's how I got to Toroline and Restring. Anyway, let's get into the review, or breakdown, I should say. This isn't really a review. All right, O-Toro, Toroline's latest and greatest. It's kind of funny to start with this one, but this is easily one of their best strings of all time. Lots of topspin, it has good tension maintenance, and as far as all of their crazy topspin potential strings go, this one probably has the best feel. And feel is something that I've come to appreciate more and more and prioritize more and more. A little while ago, I started playing without my dampener for the first time pretty much ever, and I appreciated how much more feel I got with some rackets. Not every racket, because it's not that simple. But I took my dampener off and I started to notice that some rackets gave me a lot more feel than other rackets, some strings also. And O-Toro is one of those strings that gives me all the spin and all the durability that I could ever ask for, and really good tension maintenance as well. Better than Wasabi, we'll talk about that later. But it also gives me really good feel. It is also co-developed with former top 25 ATP Pro Steve Johnson, so that's cool. A little bit of authentication from some professional players. I really love this string, but again, think for yourselves. I wouldn't say, oh, a top 25 ATP Pro Steve Johnson helped develop this string, therefore it's really good. If that piques your interest and makes you want to try this string for yourself, that's cool. And all of that aside, I think O-Toro is just one of the best strings out there, period. So can't speak highly enough of it, and I look forward to other colors coming out somewhere down the road. I was prototyping this string with Toroline, and it was pink at the time, and the pink one was awesome, but the officially released string is green. I hope they bring pink back. Hopefully they do black as well. All right, that is O-Toro. Let's do Toro Toro. These names are already getting a little funny, huh? Toro Toro is, you could think of it like O-Toro, but a bit softer. I break it a little bit more soon than I would O-Toro or Wasabi. Again, it's a really high topspin potential string. Pretty good control, good feel. I'd actually say that it's quite similar, but it is softer and a little bit less durable. Other than that, I don't have a whole bunch of nuances to really speak on. I have not tried the orange color, by the way. I think I've tried matcha green, but I forget. I must have. I think it's been a little bit of time, but it's cool that they offer a thicker gauge. In my more open rackets, I do enjoy sometimes stringing something thicker at a lower tension. You feel me? Yeah, Toro Toro's been out a little bit longer. Got a few more color options and thickness options. Yeah, great string. It's just a little bit softer, might break a little bit sooner if you're a super string breaker. Factor that in, but also keep in mind this will probably last you a lot longer if you're a super string breaker than something like Solinco, Hyper-G, or RPM Blast, etc. All right, Snapper, also a pretty new string. It has this subtle octagonal shape and it is super slippery. I will say this, I think it's a really cool cross string. I'm still kind of getting to know it, but I've used it several times and I am always happy with it in the cross string. However, as a full bed, I'm not really a fan. I don't know what it is, but it just seems kind of launchy. Like it's a very elastic string. I feel like it's a better cross string than it is a full bed string. And I was tempted to try it in a full bed just to get to know it, but also it has that subtle shape to it. So I thought, maybe it would be cool as a main string also. But honestly, it just never really worked with me. So that's kind of a quick breakdown, but yeah, I would personally only use this as a cross string. I should probably try it again as a full bed just to be sure. But some other people I talked to have said a very similar thing to me. And I kind of have mixed feelings about it as a cross string because again, it does have a subtle octagonal shape, but it's subtle enough that you can kind of forget that it has a shape. If you're really picky about having your cross strings just be round and smooth, kind of like I am, that can get in your head a little bit. So yeah, great cross string, highly slippery, pretty soft if I recall, and the ball really pockets, like it really pockets in this string. Honestly, I just felt like it might actually pocket a little bit too much. But if you've tried this string, let me know what you guys think. Again, think for yourselves, right? That's just my 2 cents. All right, we're gonna talk about hybrids a little bit. All right, let's speed run through these hybrids. So this is Wasabi and Toro Toro. All right, so you're getting 2 shaped mains. Wasabi probably loses tension a little bit more quickly than Toro Toro would. This is just me, but I wouldn't do this hybrid. Again, I don't do shaped cross strings really. And yeah, I don't know if I would combine these 2 strings. I just don't know how I would combine them in a way that I want. I don't really want either of these to be the cross string. And I acknowledge that Wasabi loses tension more quickly. I don't want the mains to be the string that loses tension more quickly. I'd rather the crosses lose tension more quickly. Ideally, there's just perfect tension maintenance all the time, but that's not the case. If I'm going to have a string lose tension more quickly, I'd rather it be the crosses, but I don't know if I want Wasabi in the crosses here. What the hybrid? Like, what am I going to do? I don't know. Co-poly cross string for enhanced ball pocketing? I'd rather use Snapper, and I'd definitely rather use Wasabi X. So that's what the Wasabi Pro is, the hybrid I was speaking on. Yeah, in the earlier days, especially after Wasabi X came out, this was like one of my favorites. I strung Wasabi and Wasabi X a little bit higher than I would string other strings, again, kind of to offset the launchiness that Wasabi can get over time. But they also suggest going up a couple pounds with Wasabi X. By the way, I can't tell you how many times like Wasabi and Wasabi X have been confusing for people. I think they've been along or out now long enough that people aren't as confused as they were in the early days. But even here they say Wasabi Neon Blue and they mean Wasabi X and they say Wasabi X here. So it's kind of funny. Maybe they've set themselves up to be a little bit confused with the naming as well. Yeah, we'll talk more on these strings individually, I guess, when they come up. A Wasabi Pro pink and blue. Yeah, they say Wasabi Neon Blue again here. That's funny. All right, I mean, yeah, same thing really, right? I'm not gonna say much about that. It's the same thing but different main color strings. All right, next string is Wasabi. How appropriate. So this is kind of the OG Toroline string for me. I don't think it's literally their first string. I could be wrong, but this is the one that really caught my attention, and it was the first string to really blow everything else out of the water in terms of snapback and topspin potential and durability. This was the first string that really actually answered my vision for a tennis string. I wanted something like Hyper-G or RPM Blast, but with more snapback. I always wondered, is there any way that they could have more snapback? Because if they had more snapback, they wouldn't eat into themselves as quickly. I'd get more topspin and the strings would last longer. I just knew that. That was a very intuitive thing to understand for me. And I tried virtually everything on the market. This was the only string to show me that there was something out there that performed in that way, and the side effects were basically exactly as I imagined. So huge shout outs to Wasabi. I think they set the bar very high for topspin strings, and it was a favorite go-to top recommendation for me for quite some time. Now I actually think that the bar has been set a little bit higher. I think O-Toro answers the bar that Wasabi set, but a little bit better. So amazing topspin, amazing durability, but it is kind of launchy and it's not the best feel string, and it can lose tension over time a little bit more than some. But the snapback is extremely consistent throughout the entire life of the string bed. If you take a string like RPM Blast, which is famously dropping tension quickly, it also just has bad snapback. So I think Wasabi ages a lot better than RPM Blast, but if I'm to compare it to other Toroline strings, I think it does fall a bit short just in overall performance compared to something like O-Toro. So I got nothing but love for Wasabi, but I've been using it way less these days. Wasabi X, still one of my favorite cross strings of all time. I'm not sure if this is actually true, but I feel like Wasabi X holds tension a little bit better than Wasabi does. I'm not actually sure if that's true, and I've basically only used it in the crosses ever. There are a few instances where I had it in a full bed, but so few and far between. It's such a good string. It is very slippery, smooth, enhances the snapback of pretty much any main that you pair it with. I think it offers decent feel. I've had some setups where the feel with this in the crosses was super good. It's so racket dependent, so racket and tension dependent. You cannot try a string once and then really judge if it's a good feel string or not. I just don't think you can. I've tried too many setups and too many rackets, and so often rackets that are not recognized as being good feel setups for me gave me amazing feel. And the reverse has been true many times. And using Wasabi X as often as I have, I've seen examples go both ways. Yeah, I highly recommend this string. It's kind of middle grounded in terms of like comfort and power and tension maintenance, but the snapback is off the freaking charts. So if you want to enhance the topspin potential of your mains and probably the lifespan of your strings a bit, Wasabi X is such a good cross string. Can't recommend it enough. Honestly, it's just, I keep this around all the time. I only have a few cross strings that are my absolute favorites, and this is one of them, Wasabi X. I would love to see more colors come out of Wasabi X, by the way. It's been out for a little bit of time. Wouldn't we love to see a black cross string? Wouldn't that be nice for people? All right, black goes with everything, you know what I mean? Here, let's talk about Enso Pro. Enso Pro, it's a little bit newer. They got more color options though. And it's kind of funny here, if you look at the gauges, they got 1.24 and then 0.01 millimeters larger for the next two sizes, and then a little bit more for the matcha green color, which just came out. It's similar to Wasabi X in a lot of ways, right? It's a smooth, slick poly. I think it offers a little bit more power. It might offer a little bit more feel. Sometimes I feel like it has less snapback. Sometimes I feel like it has more, but it's always close to Wasabi X. Namely, Carbon Gray, I feel like has consistently not given me quite as much snapback as the other colors have. Couldn't tell you why. I can't say that's 100% the case, but that is my experience and memory. But if you guys have experienced it differently, let me know. Either way, I really like all of these. I've definitely played with Neon Yellow the least. I need to get to know that one a little bit more. I've used Neon Pink and Carbon Gray the most, and I think I'm using Matcha Green right now with 0 in the mains. 0 mains in this setup being the 16 gauge size. So if you're trying to go thick, Matcha Green's the way to go. You know, this kind of thing's funny down here. It's you can see that the gauge sizes, the millimeter gauge sizes are all different. I guess American or just standard gauge size is 16L, regardless of if it's 1.27 or 1.24. Yeah, that's kind of funny to me. I know why that is, but it's still kind of funny and I think maybe confusing for some people. But Enso Pro is absolutely one of my favorite cross strings of all time as well. The only other one after this would be Sync from Restring. So those are my big three, Wasabi X, Enso Pro, and Restring Sync. Not necessarily in that order. It just kind of depends on the use case. Sync might have the best tension hold of all of them, and they also offer it in an 18 gauge, which is awesome, but it does have ever so slightly less snapback, but not so much that I ever think about it and think, nah, I'm not going to put that in, because it still has so much more than everything else. Anyway, those are my thoughts on Enso Pro. I speak on that string very highly, and I also always try to keep it around. I love it. All right, we got two more hybrids here. We got K-Pop and K-Pro. It seems these days like Karoo is just using K-Pop. Is that the case? To me, now this is just me personally, Karoo is definitely a better player than I am, but also play style wise, and I think that's actually the more important note here. Play style wise, Karoo's shot style and shot trajectory are very different for me. I try to go for like maximum top spin potential so that if I want more spin, I can get it, because it's easy enough to like flatten out a ball. A racket that has more top spin potential is still capable of hitting a flatter ball. Maybe it's not as able to as consistently or as easily, but it can. Whereas a racket that's really designed for the flatter hitting shots, after a certain point, it's just not going to be able to produce as much spin as a spin racket. So this hybrid here is a way of adding some control by having Caviar in the crosses with Wasabi in the mains. I think the vision for K-pop is to have something with some spin potential, but some of the other traits ultimately tamed by Caviar. So for Karu, who likes to hit flat, and he kind of prides himself on hitting low over the net, I think this is a happy combination of traits for him. Whereas for me, putting Caviar in the crosses just waters everything down that I like about Wasabi. So for me, it's an unhappy compromise. So if you're trying to maximize topspin, this is probably not the hybrid to go with, but if you want something that's kind of control oriented with spin potential from the snapback and shape of Wasabi, this could be a really good combo for you. I think that this is a pretty user specific hybrid setup. Also, I think I might be hitting with Karu in LA sometime in December once the season kind of chills out, the tennis season. He and I talked about it a little bit, so yeah, there's a little Easter egg for you. Be interesting to make some content with Karu. K Pro, similar idea. I think that the other Wasabi color just offers a little bit more pop, which is why they call it K-pop. And yeah, other than that, I've pretty much said what I said about this hybrid setup. It's really oriented towards a hybrid of something with a lot of spin potential and something with more control. We'll speak on Caviar a little bit more in a second, right? It's going to come up here. There it is, Caviar. Caviar is offered in 18 gauge, which is appreciated, as well as 16 light and 17. It's shaped and it offers a lot of feel and really good tension maintenance. It's not a crazy snapback spin monster. It will give you really good top spin, maybe in the category of something like Tour Bite or Hyper G levels of top spin. So if that's where you're coming from and you want something more similar to that, it's possible that Caviar would be the string from Toroline for you to try. But I always wanted to take the snapback to a level beyond what was already out there, and this string doesn't necessarily do that. But O-Toro does, Toro Toro does, Wasabi does, and I like having Wasabi X in the crosses. So I don't really have a use for a string like Caviar. I have tried it, I've gotten to know it. I've used it in the mains, I've never used it in the crosses. I don't use shaped crosses generally, right? I've made that clear. I really enjoyed this setup in a Pro Kennex that I had. That was a control-oriented frame. It was the Black Ace Pro, and I had this in the mains. I think I used the 17 gauge with 18 gauge sync in the crosses. Really fixated on having the round, smooth crosses, regardless of what kind of setup or feel I'm going for. I think that's always a good move. And yeah, those are my 2 cents on Caviar. Really good tension maintenance string. Might be their best tension maintenance string. Super Toro is interesting. I initially thought it was similar to Wasabi, but then I decided I like Wasabi a little bit more. And honestly, to this day, it's hard for me to tell if I love this string or not. I definitely like it enough. I would use it over so many other strings on the market. But within the Toroline lineup, it just hasn't been a string that I'm super drawn to. But maybe I should try it again. And I have kind of recently, I have some Super Toroline around still. They actually changed the formula somewhat recently to play a little bit more crisp. And I do think that the newer Super Toro is better than the older Super Toro. I wonder what setup I will do if I try this again. Most likely restring sync on the crosses or Wasabi X. I feel like I know this string decently well, but I also don't super love it, which makes me want to try it again just to be sure. To be really sure about how I feel on Super Toro. I've really got to compare it to O-Toro to see what I think. So stay tuned for that. We'll come back to Super Toro, but those are my thoughts for now. I don't get asked about Super Toro too much. I don't think it's their most popular string, but that doesn't mean it's not really good. Here's a string, Absolute, that I don't know very well. It is a 6-sided copoly designed for players looking for like the ultimate soft poly string from Toroline, and I just knew that that's not really going to be my setup. This string does not represent what I turned to Toroline for. I'm sure it's good, I'm sure it's comfortable, but I don't really know this string very well. I'm actually not even sure that I've used it. If I've used it, I used it once like 2 years ago, and I confirmed how I felt then and never looked back. I think the strongest thing going for this string is probably comfort. I wonder if the feel is good. I'm sure that the spin generation and potential is decent. The durability is probably decent. I have no idea if it holds tension super well over time or not. If you guys are really curious about this string, let me know. It is their only black string, and that does kind of draw me to it. Because I like neutral dark colors, I feel like sometimes Toroline is so neon, you know, really, really colorful. Even their website, the palette colors are intense. So I am kind of curious about Absolute sometimes, but yeah, don't really know it very well. Sorry. It's just not quite my kind of string. Ether. So here's an interesting fact. I think I'm right on this. I think I was speaking to the owner quite some time ago, but ether is essentially wasabi, but it's slightly thinner, and the blue color gave it some properties that they felt justified it being called a completely different string. So ether is essentially wasabi, but slightly thinner and a little bit more crisp. So ether is essentially wasabi, but slightly thinner and a little bit more crisp. I also think ether offers quite a bit more feel. I had this recently in my Pro Kennex with Wasabi X in the crosses. I got really good feel. I had to cut the strings out. Did I play until they broke? I'm not sure. I might have played until they broke, but it was kind of loose and kind of launchy. Maybe I could string it higher next time. I think I did something in the higher 50s, like 57 or something. But I like ether. I think ether's a pretty darn good string, and I think I like it better than wasabi. I probably like it better than Super Toro, we'll see, but I do like O-Toro better than ether. But I am not hating on ether. It is a good string. Really good snapback, which goes without saying, right? I'm saying that it is basically wasabi, but thinner and more crisp. All right. Got a couple more hybrids to talk about. I guess we'll do that real quick. Experimental blend. Are these different? Yeah, these are different. So this one is Toro Toro and Wasabi X. Oh man, this is confusing. Look at that. Toro Toro X Wasabi X. I think you could say plus Wasabi X. That's what I do when I'm talking about hybrids on my Instagram stories. I'll say Toro Toro plus Wasabi X or something. I don't use the X symbol twice. That confuses me. This will be cool. I've done this. I do this. Again, Toro Toro does break on me a little bit sooner, and I've noticed that. But this will be soft. This will be powerful. Not overly powerful, but it'll be a decently powerful hybrid setup. Comfortable, lots of spin potential. I actually think everything about this hybrid is pretty freaking awesome. I just get a little bit less durability out of Toro Toro. And same mains here, but Enso Pro in the crosses. Is this picture the exact same as the other one with K-pop? Oh my gosh, let me look. Let's go over to K-pop. Where's that? Doing some investigating here. Okay, there it is. Oh, no. Well, it's a different picture. It's a different picture, right? Yeah. What racket is that? It's not Karu's racket. That's, what is that? I don't know what that racket is, but it's not the racket Karu uses. This one might be, right? Because it's that Yonex Percept. Anyway, probably very similar to this hybrid, but maybe a little bit more power. What do they say here? Is this description the exact same? Maximum spin / control and a round co-poly for enhanced ball pocketing. I think that this and this description are the exact same. Yeah, they look the exact same. That's funny because you'd want there to be something different in the description because the hybrids are different, but they're both called experimental, right? Yeah, I guess with Enso Pro, you might expect a little bit more power compared to this one. And yeah, I don't want to say too much. I feel like I'm just yammering on if I get really descriptive about the hybrid again, because I've already talked about Toro Toro and I've already talked about Enso Pro. You're using them in a hybrid, like it's just going to be a compromise or a combination of the two things I've already described. This will give you great spin. It'll give you good power. You'll get a lot more durability than most, but you won't get as much durability as you will if you have Wasabi in the mains or O-Toro in the mains, which I'm more likely to use. But every now and then I get a little experimental and I mess around with Toro Toro. I just put Toro Toro in my Pro Kennex with Restring Sync 18 gauge in the crosses. I overthink things and I really don't like my crosses to be thicker than my mains. So I personally couldn't use this. I just have a mental block with the cross strings being thicker. I think they should be the same gauge or thinner than the mains always. That's just how I feel about it. But Toro Toro does come with a thicker gauge. You can put Enso Pro in the crosses, and I think the 1.27 Matcha Toro Toro, which I do want to try sometime because that would look kind of sick. Matcha mains with these neon yellow crosses. Ooh, that would look cool. I got to hit Toroline up about that. I don't know if I'm still not 100% sure I've tried the Matcha Toro Toro. I know I've tried the Matcha Enso Pro. Anyway, I guess that concludes my breakdown of the Toroline strings. Yeah, I love this string company. I really think that they are pushing the boundaries, both in terms of how a string brand can succeed, but really in terms of the performance you can expect from a string. I really can't stress enough how awesome it is that you can get more snapback and therefore more topspin and therefore more durability. Having that trifecta just because you're reducing the string on string friction so much is amazing. And that doesn't mean that you're compromising on other important things like tension maintenance or feel. O-Toro is such a good string example of something that is so uncompromising. I think that this is probably Toroline's best string. I haven't used it in a full bed yet. I probably should, just to see what I think. I always pair it with something like Enso Pro or Restring Sync or Wasabi X. But O-Toro is a freaking awesome string. I don't really know if it falls short in any category. It is just such a high-performing string. Whatever you're looking for in a polyester string, unless you hate snapback, which is fine. If you hate snapback, maybe there's a case where that makes sense. Like if you want a super dense string bed where the strings just don't move and you like hitting really flat or something like that, maybe you just don't like snapback. But most people like some, and O-Toro has a lot. That's my breakdown. And for what it's worth, I'll just say it one more time. Don't diminish Toroline's strings because it's an influencer company, okay? We do have a legitimate professional on the tour using Toroline strings. It does last a lot longer in the string bed than pretty much everything else out there. It does produce a lot more topspin. If you can get excited and get behind that, you should try these strings and just see what you think for yourself. And if the super topspin crazy stuff isn't quite your cup of tea, they do have Caviar, which is a pretty popular string from Toroline. So I feel like as a company, Toroline actually addresses and covers a pretty wide spectrum of players. And I have nothing but love for Toroline. They've done an amazing job. So there it is. That's my honest breakdown. If you guys want to get 20% off before the end of the month, use my code ZeroLove. But as soon as November hits, it's going to be 10%. What is your favorite Toroline string? Let me know in the comments. And if you're not a fan of Toroline, let me know what you've tried and let me know what you've thought. I'm not going to try to change your mind or anything. I'm just curious what you think. Thank you guys so much for watching. I do have a coffee shout out, so please stick around for that. And I will also shout out a couple of other companies that I think are very worth mentioning. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for sticking around. Stick around for just another minute. Good stuff here. For today's coffee shout out, we are pouring some very mediocre coffee at a random tire shop. My girlfriend got a flat, so I was keeping her company during this errand. Thought this would be the perfect time to pour myself a cup of joe. Thank you to christianhoetama, bought 3 coffees. He says, keep up the good work, man. Thank you very much, Christian, for your 3 coffees. Much appreciated. Your direct support helps me do what I do. Link to support the channel directly for a shout out of your own is in the description of this video. Stirring my own sweeteners in. I keep this in my car in case I want a coffee on the go and I'm not in control of the sweeteners. But yeah, this coffee was not very good, but it was fun to drink a mediocre coffee on camera. So thank you again. Yeah, very mid coffee. What's up, guys? We're just keeping it rolling. I'm gonna tell you about a few products that I think are really worth knowing about. First of all, the Frankworks shoe. Everybody's underestimating it. They look at the strap design and just totally think it's not gonna be a high-performing tennis shoe, and they're wrong. And if you wanna learn more, you can watch my podcast to actually talk to the creator and designer of this shoe. I had similar hostility going into this shoe. I was actually ready to review it and kind of bash it, but honestly, the shoe took me by surprise and I really like it. I'm impressed by it. So check those out, links below. Learn more on the podcast. And on that note, I gotta suggest the grip socks from RTP. It's an absolute game changer. I've said it many times, but I still feel like I haven't said it enough. So please check out the grip socks. You can get a little discount with my code. Way better than the grip socks you'll find on Amazon, by the way. It's not some crappy silicone that'll start to fail as soon as it gets sweaty. Socks get sweaty, right? It's a much better material and it has grip on the inside and the outside. So you're gonna grip your shoe and the sock is gonna grip your foot. It's a brilliant design. Please check it out. It'll up your footwork immediately. If you want to take it up even another notch, you can check out WeFoot. They have an insanely grippy insole. That's what I usually do. I play with a basic Dickies sock. You can find that in my storefront. You are locked in. So locked in fact, that you could probably play with your tennis shoes untied and you might not notice. That's exactly what's happened to a couple of my friends playing with some of these things that I've tested over and over. I'm not saying you should do that, but the grip is insane. That is my point. It's not like sticky, it's grippy. You're not like glued to your shoe. So please check out these shoes, and please, even if you don't check out these shoes, consider upgrading your footwork instantly with these products. They are not expensive. Also got to shout out Volley. If you guys are already taking electrolytes and you're paying money like you would for Element or Liquid IV, those are the big name brands out there, please spend your money on Volley instead. First of all, you can get a discount with my code. Second of all, it's a way better electrolyte. Like literally every single ingredient in there is better. It is more bioavailable. It is more clean sourced. Everything from the Himalayan pink salt as the sodium source to the coconut sourced potassium. Liquid IV is cheaping out. Element content is cheaping out. They're paying a lot of money on endorsement deals, cutting corners on the ingredients. So check out Volley, especially if you're already taking electrolytes. And if you're not, highly consider taking electrolytes. And I gotta shout out Titan ball machines. They make the sickest ball machine. You can get $100 off with my code. I have content on that ball machine if you want to know more. Check that out. It can do everything. It can lob, it can drop shot immediately after lobbing and then send you way back to the baseline with like an 80-mile-an-hour forehand or backhand random. You can do so many things. Really intuitive app to program the drills. And you can even create a drill or download a drill and share that, which I need to do actually, so you guys can do that. Some of you guys have gotten the Titan machine. The best ball machine, period. Especially in that price point, which is up there. It's not cheap, but it's the best. Of course it's not cheap. And I can't end a video without shouting out Restring and Toroline. They make my favorite strings. Maximum snapback, maximum durability. I'm a huge fan of Zero and Sync from Restring. O-Toro is an absolute masterpiece from Toroline. And I'm really enjoying Enso Pro in the crosses, Wasabi X in the crosses. And Restring is now doing this custom box thing, so you can buy sets of Zero with sets of Sync, and you can do Zinc, which I really like to do if I'm putting Zero in the mains and I'm keeping it all Restring. Check it out. Let me know what you think in the comments, and if you have any questions, you can always DM me on Instagram. Thank you guys, and I will see you in the next one. All right, bye for now. Oh, and I almost forgot to mention Direct Tennis. You can get 15% off of not only rackets. I thought it was only rackets, it's everything. Zero Love 15 gets you 15% off of everything on the storefront. The only catch is the UI is kind of funny, and you can only use Direct Tennis on the App Store, so it's for Apple users only. But if you're set up to do that, you can save 15% on rackets, reels, etc. All right, that's everything. I'll see you guys in the next one.